Hey everyone, welcome into another edition of the Big Three NBA podcast. Sherrod Blakely, Gary Washburn, myself, Kwani Lunis. The crew is back together. Before we get into the nitty gritty, because there's so much to talk about as usual, we want to remind you that you are listening to the Big Three NBA podcast, like I just said, which is part of the CLNS Media Network, which is where you can find our podcast, past and present. In addition, there are a ton of other Celtics content. Additionally, the Garden Report, which goes live immediately after every Celtics game, home or away, win or lose. It's definitely a podcast that you want to listen to. So if you're to the Boston Celtics and all that's happening with the team, the CLNS Media Network has you covered. All right, off the top Celtics related news: Austin Ainge leaving the Celtics front office. A little nepotism happening. He is heading to Utah to be the president of basketball operations. He was previously the assistant general manager in Boston, a variety of roles throughout the Celtics organization over the last 14 years, but now he'll be calling the shots in Utah with his dad as his dad is reporting to him now. But what do you two make of this move overall?
You know what? Everyone is pulling a nepotism card on this one.
We love a nepo card sometimes.
Here's the thing, and while whether that's true or not is debatable, but
For sure.
you look at the body of work. You look at what he's actually done. You look at the impact that he has had. You look at the success that has been, with him in the room when a lot of those decisions in Boston were made. Nepotism, you absolutely can make a case for that. But it's not like this is a guy who got an opportunity and fumbled it, but still stayed in position to grow when he wasn't very good at the job. Austin is very good. And he didn't, unlike a lot of the Nepo types, he didn't start at the top. I mean, he was coaching the G League squad. And when you look at the pecking order in Boston and NBA teams, coaching a G League team, that's like, is it fair to say, Gary, that's like below the last seat on the second row on the Celtics squad? Is it fair to say that's like a notch below that?
Yeah, it's a tough gig.
Yeah, it is, and that's where he kind of he cut his teeth. He's done scouting, he's done international scouting, domestic scouting. I mean, you look at his body of work, and clearly, from a qualification standpoint, he fits the bill. But it does raise the question, because he had an opportunity to get all that experience. That to me, that's where the nepotism dynamic comes into play. But I will say this though. Looking at his body of work, I was actually more impressed with what he's done the last few years than previously, because when his daddy was running things in Boston and he was here, Pops is running the show. You're good. When Pops left and you stayed, they could have easily cut him loose. Brad could have easily said, you know what, your dad's out west. Why don't you go with your dad? But he kept him around. He still had a role with the organization, and the team won a chip during his time away from dad. So I'm happy for Austin, because I think he has put in the work to get this opportunity. But you can't look at this and not be mindful of nepotism in some way, shape, or form. Probably played a role in him either being where he's at now in his new job, or building the resume and the credentials to position himself for this job.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to push the nepotism card as hard as others, because one, Austin Ainge is 43 years old. Like, Austin ain't no kid. Okay, this is not a guy who hasn't been around the NBA. This isn't some kid fresh out of Syracuse.
Oh wow! Shots fired. Okay.
This isn't a kid fresh out of college who does. Austin's been around a while, so I think he's paid his dues now. Does he deserve to be the president of basketball operations? That's a good question. We'll see if he's ready for that job, especially in Utah. But this is not like the Knicks or the Lakers or the Heat or even the Celtics. Like, this is the Utah Jazz. Utah Jazz is not going to pay $5 trillion for a president of basketball operations. The Utah Jazz got Danny because Danny has roots in Utah. Obviously, he played at BYU. He's a hero in that state, and he wanted to run his own organization again, and kind of wanted a fresh start from the Celtics, and wanted to hand the mantle to Brad Stevens. And I think Austin's done a quality job. I'm not going to pull the whole, oh, he only got this because of his daddy. One, I think it's a little belittling to say his daddy. Just say his father. Like the whole daddy thing makes it look like he's 12. You know what I'm saying? And he gets to drive. He's getting to drive the Cadillac. Let's not. I mean, Austin Ainge is 43 years old. He's grown ass man with.
I mean, he probably even know what Kenny's are, Gary. He probably know what those are.
Exactly. He's a grown man with multiple children. So Austin ain't no kid. Okay, so let's drop the he's the Bronny of NBA general managers.
Oh my God, that's extreme. Yeah,
people. But so I want to see the type of job he does. I think he's probably been prepared for this. Obviously, his father did a great job in Boston, and his father's done kind of a we'll wait to be seen job in Utah. They haven't had a lot of on-court success, and they didn't win the Cooper Flag sweepstakes. So we'll see how it goes with this rebuild and whether they're actually going to rebuild. But who knows? Like, I think the Celtics can find people in their organization and outside the organization who will do a great job in filling Austin's place. But I do think Austin had a solid role in the organization. I think he did a solid job, a good job. Especially after his father left. And I'll wait to see what kind of GM. He hasn't had a chance. But what I said before, not talking about the Lakers. We didn't had former players be presidents. We didn't have guys from off we never heard of be presidents. Sometimes it's not a method to success. We've seen, we've all covered former players who failed at being a GM and just couldn't do it. We've talked to guys who were quote unquote nobodies or guys who were not players, didn't have the big name, who were great at their job. So, we'll see what happens. Sometimes guys have done well in the second time around. Their first time being a GM, they didn't do well. The second time they killed it. So we'll see how this goes to Austin. I'm not going to pull the nepotism card. I'm going to wish him the best, and I think he's going to do a good job.
That's the best thing that we can do. But that being said, when you think about him making this job, obviously it's a promotion, a good opportunity for him. But what role do you think the new ownership of the Celtics may have played in maybe even him looking around, if at all?
I mean, to me, you never know what. I think this opportunity opened up for Austin. I don't think Austin was looking to leave, but if someone offers you the front office job, you're out, right? Especially a place where he has roots. He played at BYU, I want to say, and he's got his dad's out there, and I think there's siblings that live out there, other Ainge siblings that live out there too. So probably a chance to come home, a chance to help rebuild an organization that needs it right now. I mean, I think the Jazz were banking on getting Cooper Flag. They tanked this year, and I think they're the fourth. I think they're the fifth pick. So they're not getting Cooper Flag. They're getting another top prospect, maybe a guy like Trey Johnson or somebody like that who can make an impact, but he ain't Cooper Flag. So now what do? You're in a market that doesn't attract free agents. You got to overpay to get guys, or you got to make trades. So we'll see the skill set that Austin has, but I don't think that ownership was telling him to okay, Austin, you better start, filing your resume, submitting your resume other places, and we'll see what kind of replacement the Celtics have in terms of will they promote someone or will they bring in someone from the outside. But I don't think ownership had much to do with this.
No, I don't think that as much as I think that the Celtics are going through this transition period where they're not going to be a title contender. And I think folks like Austin and others recognize that if there's a time to leave and find different opportunities, this is probably it. You're not walking away from a team that is, 16 wins away from winning an NBA title. That Celtics team ain't going to be around come playoff time. If, depending on even if they make the playoffs, because depending on how they restructure this roster, there's no guarantee they'll be in the postseason. To me, I think what Austin is doing is going to be one of, I think, probably 2 or 3 more moves by folks in their front office to move on to other opportunities. Our guy Remy Cofield, just about a month or so ago, he went to be the GM over at the University of Arkansas. And I think there may be 1 or 2 others. I'm curious to see what Sam Cassell does. Because I think, to me, if he takes another assistant coaching position, he may not be the only assistant coach looking to make that move. Because for Sam at this point, anything that's not a head coaching move is lateral in every sense of the word. I think that there's a very short queue of assistant coaches lined up to get head coaching jobs, and Sam is near the front of that line, I believe. So for him to leave, that would be a bit of a kind of a like, whoa, did that really just happen type move. So I think Austin, his decision certainly, it didn't help that the Celtics are going to be under new ownership, but I don't think it necessarily nudged him to decide to take a job that in every sense of the word is an upgrade, I think, in terms of not only the job itself and obviously the pay, but also in terms of lifestyle. I mean, Austin is at that point, as Gary pointed, he's a grown-ass man. And, having an opportunity to do your job at a higher level with someone that you've looked up to, someone that you've respected, someone that you've loved for literally your entire life, your dad, that's an opportunity it's hard to walk away from. So I think the decision for Austin, I think there were multiple factors that made this one of those you can't possibly turn this job down type of opportunities. And so for me, I think that stuff overrode any possible thoughts of him, thinking about management or new ownership and playing a role in that, which is great for Austin. It's great for his family. Danny Ainge, I know, is tickled pink to have his son and his family right there in Utah. So I think it's going to be a good move for all the Ainges in the long term.
For sure. All right. So reminder for those of you who are listening to the show, just quick break before we get into some other NBA news. We ask that you subscribe to this podcast, and make sure you're leaving a review. And for those watching the show on TLNS, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the Celtics All Access YouTube channel, where you can find our show and a lot of other great Celtics content. Also, please make sure you're turning on those notifications so you'll know the moment a new episode drops. All right, speaking of hirings, we need to talk about firings now. Tom Thibodeau fired by the New York Knicks. He led the Knicks to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in 25 years, was able to rally his team together through multiple rounds, and yet he still lost his job. Why?
You sound like Nancy Kerrigan. Why?
But I'm sure not only Knicks fans, but NBA fans are wondering why, after finally getting to this point of success. Of course, winning the NBA Finals is the goal, but to get close enough to it, you would think they'd give him another shot.
I think what we're seeing now in the NBA is just this I think false narrative of what success looks like for organizations. Like, I don't think organizations are embracing the growth trajectory that you have to have in order to be a successful franchise. And
trusting the process? You think they're scared of trusting the process?
I think there's that, but I think with Tom Thibodeau specifically, I think that there's a sense that with him, this is kind of what he does. This is the way that they were able to play short rotation, get out of the first round, and this year get out of the second round. This is pretty much the ceiling for Tom Thibodeau coach teams. And I would have much rather the Knicks pointed to that as the reason for letting him go, that we've gone as far as we think we can go with Tom Thibodeau. But they gave some other cockamamie reasons why, which really, for those of us who have a consistent BS meter that's always on, it was damn near off the charts when they were talking about why they were getting rid of Tom. And if you're Tom Thibodeau, you're not the least bit sad or disappointed because they owe you $30+ million. So they literally gave this man, they broke this man off with a fat check, less than a year ago. So he's going to be all right. And when you think about some of the names that you keep hearing floated about as possible replacements, it makes even less sense why you fired him. Like, how can you conceptualize going from a Tom Thibodeau coach team to like one coach by Mike Malone? You do realize that they're different people, but they're cut from the same cloth. They're really hard on their players. They don't play a lot of guys. They have a relatively short rotation. Even when, in Denver, when I think Mike Malone, I think, had a few more bodies that he could throw out there, he still kept it kind of tight, even the year that they won a title. So there's a lot of issues and concerns that if you're a Knicks fan, you should have right now, because your franchise was on the cusp of getting to the NBA Finals, and your ownership group and your front office said, nah, we're good. We're going to start over. We're going to bring in someone, because you're not going to get someone at this stage of the game who is a clear upgrade over Tom Thibodeau. You're just not. And so, Larry Brown ain't walking through that door. And Jeff Van Gundy, no matter how much they bring his name up, Jeff's not going to walk through the door because they just got rid of his boy. Tibbs, that's his guy.
Exactly.
So, that this is going to not end well for the Knicks. It would not shock me if the Knicks go a step further and start breaking off some pieces, like trading Karl Anthony Towns or trading OG, and the next thing you know, the Knicks are back to being that team that can maybe get to the playoffs and maybe win a round, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah, let me see here.
According to my notes.
Yeah, let me look at
my hood research.
Yeah, let me look at my notes here. I just think the Knicks are looking for a coach that can take them. What the question is Tibbs okay? If Tibbs is not your long-term answer, do you keep him because he had a great season, or do you get rid of him now and try to upgrade? And I think obviously ownership and the front office felt like he was not the coach that they wanted there long-term. So, and the question, you don't give him a second chance to work with a team that had Karl Anthony Towns and Mikal Bridges for their first year. This was just their first year together. And they went to the Eastern Conference Finals Game 6, and they beat the Celtics, right? So you would think that that'd be good enough, but it sounds like management looked and said, and that's been Tibbs' tab. He's good enough to get you to a certain place. So we know coaches like that, all the way through covering the league, Doug Collins, and there's been guys that are just really good quality coaches, but they're not good enough to get you to that championship level, right? And so they bounce around. They get 5, 6, 7 jobs because a growing team will take a chance. And there's coaches now, your JB Bickerstaffs and guys, Kenny Atkinsons, guys around the league who are considered quality coaches, but have never taken a team to the championship, have never gotten to that level. And so I think the Knicks looked and said, listen, we love the guy, but he's not the coach that's going to get us to that elite level. So let's pull the plug now. Is it deserving? Absolutely not. Did he get screwed? Of course he did. Because if he's not the type of coach for you, you knew that when you hired him. You know that Tibbs has been with the Chicago Bulls, been with the Minnesota Timberwolves. This is his third head coaching job. He is considered, quote unquote, a retread. You know his history. He plays his starters a lot of minutes. He grades on his players at times. So unless you saw complete slippage in coaching, or you looked and said, we should have won that Indiana series, and could they have won game 1 and could have gone 7 games? Yes, for sure. It should probably, as a series, it probably should have gone 7 games. But if you're the Celtics, you're saying the same thing. We should have won the first 2 games against the Knicks and won the series maybe in 6 or 7. Because if you go up 2-0 in that series instead of down 0-2, you're probably winning the series in 5 or 6. So the Celtics can say the same thing. But the Knicks, I just think they're an organization that's still trying. They haven't won a title in 52 years. They're still trying to find that magic, and this is the way they do it. Has it worked? Absolutely not. Unless they get Jay Wright from former Villanova coach, I don't know who's going to be a real serious upgrade. You're gonna take a longtime assistant, a guy who's never been a head coach, you're going to throw him in that situation and go, cross your fingers. Okay, you want to go after somebody like Ime Udoka, you want to take somebody else's coach And then, that's a possibility if you offer, $15 million a year and think, try to lure him to go to New York. But then that leaves some bad feelings in his former team. Is Ime, a guy like Ime? I heard names like Jason Kidd. Okay. Is that what you want to do? Is Jason Kidd a huge upgrade over Tom Thibodeau?
No.
No. Is he more of a players coach? Yeah, I would say that. Do the Knicks need a players coach? Do they need a buddy guy? Probably not. They need a guy who's more of a strategic guy. They need a guy who's going to whip those guys into shape defensively. But when you have two of your main players, Brunson and Towns, that don't play good defense, one's because he's 5'11, and the other is because he just doesn't have the tactics to play defense in Towns, that cripples your ability to play with the elite teams in the NBA because you're going to constantly get targeted. I mean, so I think it's a bad decision by a team that makes these types of bad decisions. Remember, they hired Derek Fisher. I think they have Jeff Hornacek. Like this team has had a plethora of coaches that were like, why, why that guy? And unfortunately for them, it has not worked. And this continues to be the type of moves that these kind of teams make.
So to that point, speaking of bad decisions, we're gonna play a game of pick and roll. Pick one, and why are you rolling with them? The Knicks president Leon Rose, Tibbs, or the players?
Who do you think, Gary, responsible for this?
The players. I mean, and on one, I do think it's partially the management. You didn't get, you know, you're the one that made, Leon Rose, the one that traded 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges. You're the one that traded 2 guys in your rotation for Karl Anthony Towns. You're out there running campaign out there as your backup point guard, a guy who's bounced around the league, been released, waived, and so he eventually in the playoffs lost his minutes. I mean, that's not, quite honestly, that's not Tibbs' fault. So to me, I got to split it between the players and split it between management. He didn't play his bench because they didn't trust his bench. Now, could he have played guys like Landry Shamet or Delon Wright more or Precious Achua? Yeah, but were those guys going to get you a championship? Like, let's be honest, no. So you need to load your roster with more talent. You see what the Celtics, you want to do the Celtics? The Celtics drafted Peyton Pritchard. They signed Sam Hauser. They got Derek White. They got obviously Holiday. But you're talking about guys coming off the bench. You got a reliable Al Horford. Like you lined your roster up with quality players. And that's how you win. And look at the 2 teams in the finals now. The Thunder is filled 10-11 deep, and the Pacers are 10-11 deep.
Yeah. Now, I put this on Leon. I put this on Leon Rose because, again, when you look at the issues that the New York Knicks had, and they had plenty of issues, certainly Tom's coaching was a factor in them not being able to get past, Indiana. And certainly the players didn't do as well a job as they should have done. But this roster was Leon Rose's he put this together. He way overpaid for Bridges, which limited their flexibility when they realized there were some other pieces that they could potentially add to the roster. They didn't have no damn sweetener for that. They had no draft picks because they gave them all away to get Bridges, who is a decent player, but 5 draft picks decent? Hell no. I mean, there's only like maybe a small handful of players where you can say, I'm going to give you 5 draft picks for that guy. And you will look at that and be like, okay, I get it. If someone said, I'm going to give you 5 draft picks for Giannis, okay, I can see that. 5 draft picks for Anthony Edwards, 5 draft picks for, Luka. You'll be like, okay, I get it. It's a lot, but I get it because of the talent. Bridges ain't that dude. He is not him. And yet Leon Rose treated him as if he was that guy. And so I put a lot of the problems that this organization had this year on him because a lot of the and Tom Thibodeau, to me, he's never really had a bench of good players. I'd like to see what Tom has like legitimately 9, 10 guys. Because if we're being honest, did Cameron Payne deserve to play more than he did? Did DeLon Wright deserve to play more than he did? I mean, there's a reason why these cats was bouncing around throughout the NBA. Because teams would get to be like, okay, this ain't gonna work with you. What if you go over here? Oh damn, it ain't working with them either. Okay, what if you go over here? And so you start to realize that it's not so much the system, it's not so much the coaches, it's the players. And this is what you telling Tom Thibodeau, who already in his mind has a relatively short leash on anyone who's not in his core five, core six. So to me, Leon Rose was the issue because he did not force Tom's hand to play good players. He gave Tom some mediocre journeymen to play, and Tom's like, no, hell no. I'm going to run Josh Hart into the ground because Josh Hart playing 40 minutes is better than Josh Hart playing 30 minutes and 10 going to, Wright or campaign. So, no. Leon is definitely the one who I think is really at if you're gonna slice up the blame pie, he gets the biggest share. Everyone gets a share, but Leon Rose to me gets the biggest share.
Yeah.
Before we go any further, just want to give a quick shout out to our good friends at PrizePicks. Cash in on the basketball playoffs with PrizePicks. Don't miss your last chance to add your favorite players from the court to your PrizePicks lineup. Whether you're looking at points, rebounds, assists, take your pick of more or less for your shot to win up to $2,000 your cash today. Also, don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from other sports like the diamond and ice hockey and things like that in your prize pick lineup. And again, you can mix and match your player projections from different sports and combine your favorite players and from all different sports, basketball, hockey, even esports, and much, much more. So with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to $2,000 your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks, which is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. So how do you get in? It's real simple. You just download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, you download the app today. Use the code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game.
All right. Well, speaking of games, I can't believe that we're already at this point in the season. The NBA Finals tip off on Thursday evening. We have our matchup, of course, the Pacers versus the Thunder. It's been a long road, but it seems like it'll be a fun one to watch. What are you two looking forward to most from this matchup?
Gary already knows who the person I'm looking to do some things. And he ain't gonna log a single minute in the actual game.
Who is it?
It's my guy, Rick Carlisle.
Oh.
The thing that I'm finding, and Gary, and both of you kind of, I think, can relate to me on this. The deeper you get into the postseason, the more your coach and what he can do and how he can pivot and evolve and shift and tweak things becomes so important.
True.
And OKC has a great coach, but Rick's better. Rick Carlisle is better. He's got a better track record. He's won it all before. He's going to be a Hall of Famer when all is said and done as a coach. And I think his ability to make the necessary in-game adjustments is going to give Indiana a much better chance to be competitive in this series than most people are giving them credit for being. But at the end of the day, it always comes back to talent. It always comes back to depth and all those factors, and that's why OKC is ultimately going to emerge victorious. But my boy Ricky is going to make it. He's going to make it interesting. His kids ain't going out like those suckers. The Pacers will make this thing it's going to be a better series than I think people are bargaining for. And Indiana, I do believe, will win at least a game or two. I expect OKC to win this thing in 6. But damn it, my man Ricky going to make it interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun series to look out for. I think the depth, the defense, the youth out there, a lot of teams two teams that were very similarly built because neither is a free agent destination. So they had to get their star players through trade with Halliburton and Siakam, and then SGA, and then they had to kind of tank to get Chet Holmgren. They happened, that Clipper trade for SGA is a trade that never stops giving, because another first round pick from that trade that they got for the Clippers, they were able to take Jalen Williams. So basically, they got Jalen Williams and SGA for Paul George, and they still have a pick swap. So who has the Clippers first round pick this year? The Thunder. What over who? SGA and Paul George. So Paul George is now with his second team. He ain't with the Clippers no more. Right?
Real talk, Gary. Should Paul George get a ring?
He should get a ring for both teams.
He should get a ring. It don't matter.
He helped rebuild both teams.
He should get a ring.
That's what happens when you get guys and they're a tad bit overrated. Not Tyrese Halliburton, but Paul George, and then they draw this trade value and end up helping rebuild franchise. That's why one player can help rebuild a franchise. So Paul George going to the Clippers, and the Oklahoma City got 5 first-round picks, a couple of pick swaps, and now they're in the finals. Best chance to win a championship, high favored to win a championship, and the Clippers are sitting up home eating some oatmeal, watching the finals.
Damn.
Paul George has since left the Clippers and now in Philadelphia. So you figure that out. Sometimes the best trades are the ones you make, and sometimes the Clippers should have just said, "Nah, we good. Mm-hmm. We're not trading this." Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he a pretty good player. I think we're going to hold on to him. He played 1 year in L.A. He was nice. He had a nice rookie year, and they gave him away. So I just think, look at the depth, look at the defense, look at the young youth. It's going to be a very entertaining series. I know it's not two sizzling teams with the big names and the major cities, and people are going to ask, damn, I didn't know Oklahoma had a team. When did Oklahoma get a team? And Indiana, when's the last time they won the championship? And you say the ABA, and they're like, what the hell is the ABA? So you're going to do a little Google searching, do a little research on these two teams. But it should be a fun, like Sherrod said, an entertaining series. I expect Rick Carlisle's coaching to get them 1 or at least 2 games in this series. And who knows? The first one is always the best one to get for the road team, because you're filling each other out.
Yep.
Maybe Indiana punches first and steals that game 1. Then it's a real series now, because then you got to go back to Indiana for 2, and that's a hornet's nest to play in. Mm-hmm. So I expect a competitive series. I'm with Sherrod, unfortunately. I hate to agree with him again. I got the OKC in 6, okay. But I would not be surprised, because we just have no familiarity how these two teams play. Like, you can look at the regular season matchups and, things like that, and that's not going to tell you a lot. We got to see how these two teams match up, but very evenly matched, and two teams that were built like, and it gives the Celtic fans should look at the players on the floor. And sometimes these teams bid low. Look at Indiana getting a guy like, we know, all familiar, Aaron Nesmith, Obi Toppin, guys who were not valued in one place, and they took them. And maybe that's what the Celtics are going to have to do: pick a guy around the league, get some of that salary out of there, get a cheaper guy who maybe hasn't proven it, and then he comes to Boston and he helps the team win the chip. So, and the same thing with Oklahoma City. Aaron Wiggins, who is that guy? Cason Wallace, Isaiah Joe, guys you have not heard of unless you're a real hoop
sounds like
fan.
A fake name, Isaiah Joe.
Yeah, I know, exactly. Isaiah Joe.
Really would love having him right now.
Yeah. But you look, and Philly gave him away, right? Yep. Philly had him, gave him away. Aaron Wiggins was a second-round pick. So look at Andrew Nembhard, second-round pick. So if Celtic fans, look out for this. This is how you get good, and you ain't spending a whole boatload of money. You got to land on some of these draft picks. You got to land on second-round pick. You got to land on a late first-round pick. Not to say the Celtics haven't, but this is how you want to know how they can rebuild and not spend a whole lot of money. Scouting.
Yeah, you gotta absolutely nail it. You can't be getting these Jordan Mickeys and some of these other cats.
Oh man, don't James
He really
Young
wanted to
don't.
say Jordan Mickey so badly.
Yeah, James,
I love me some Jordan Mickey. I love me some Jordan Mickey.
James Young, yeah, our friend
Where's
James
he
Young.
now?
Carson Edwards, who had a
Yeah,
great tournament.
man, Carson Edwards,
blast from the
yeah.
past.
And I think all those guys are overseas. I think, Carson has made a really good living over there, and so I think Jordan Mickey, was with CSK Moscow. So
Good.
you know,
He had a good career.
so yeah, I mean, it didn't work out for him in the league, but yeah, this is scouting, and you'll see how scouting is important and to building these teams, and the Celtics could take a page from that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's true. Well, Thursday night it all goes down. Any final words from the two of you?
I'm just looking forward to getting the final start. It seems like it's been forever since we've seen basketball.
Seriously.
I'm looking forward to seeing how this plays out and seeing my boy Rick Carlisle do his damn thing on the sideline. That's my guy. That's my dude.
Yeah, that's your guy.
That's my guy. I hope I'm wrong about my prediction. I hope Indiana actually winds up winning. I really do.
Okay. There you go.
Really do. I'm not gonna become prisoner of my emotions and pick the Pacers because that's how I really want to win. But look, Oklahoma City basically does what Indiana does, but better. I mean, that's and for me, if they had contrasting styles, maybe I could kind of convince myself to go with the Pacers. But basically, Oklahoma City, especially defensively, Indiana has made great strides in that regard. But Oklahoma City, their defense might be one of the all-time greats when all is said and done. The way that they are able to just become like super glue on everyone who gets the rock. You swing the ball and you think your man is open because you just got double teamed, and you realize like, damn, they rotate ridiculously quick, and they're just a really good team. You don't win 68 games or whatever how many they won and not be a really good team. And a big part of what they do is defense. So again, I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. It's hard for me to see a scenario where Oklahoma doesn't win this thing in 5 or 6 games.
Understood. All right. Well, one more reminder before we go. For those listening to the show, we just want to ask that you are subscribing to the podcast if you haven't done so already, liking this episode and others, leaving reviews, sharing with a friend. And for those who are watching the show on CLNS, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the CLNS Media and Celtics All Access YouTube channel, where you can find our show and a lot of other great Celtics content. And one more thing, make sure you turn on those notifications like we mentioned earlier so that you know the moment a new episode drops. That's all for this week's episode of the Big 3 NBA podcast. For Sherrod Blakely and Gary Washburn, I'm Kwani Lunis. Thank you for watching.
Go get him, Rick! Go get him, Rick! My dude.